Okay, hello again, everybody. Thank you for joining us on another edition of Spincast. Today we have from the University of Cincinnati, MIKA KUMAR. She is the president of the Esports Club there at UC. Go Bearcats, how are you?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
I am hanging in there, just trying to take it one day at a time. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming on, first and foremost, so thank you.
Yeah.
And we'll just jump right into it. So, Mika, if you would, please tell us a little bit about you, your background, how you got into esports, and how that led you to your current position at the University of Cincinnati.
Sure. So currently at the University of Cincinnati, I'm entering my fourth year. I'm a double major in fine arts and art history. So it's kind of weird because when people think esports, they think of like, oh, IT, comp sci, more left brainers, if you will. So I got into video games at a really young age. Like my parents bought me one of those like plug-in video game consoles, and I played Duck Hunt and all kinds of things. But I didn't really get into esports until I started playing like League of Legends. That's like my number one game, and it's a really popular esport. So I was addicted throughout high school. It's sad to say I paid more attention to the league than I did to my studies, but made it into DAP, so that was a big accomplishment. And the first thing that I did once I got to UC was I looked for a video game club, and I saw that there was an esports club. And so I just jumped on that immediately. I was just a casual member. And I really liked the environment. It brought a lot of people from different backgrounds together, and it's really nice because I find that I'm pretty socially awkward if I don't have anything to really talk about with other people. But if we all have this common interest, which is video games and esports, then I find it really easy to start conversations and talk. And I'm like an extrovert all of a sudden. I didn't really start taking a leadership approach in the club until about the second semester of my first year, so that was like 2018. Um, and I helped initially with like graphic design. And then I decided that I wanted to take more of a leadership opportunity in the club. So then I became like the technical media manager, which was basically like managing the Discord server and the Twitch streams. And then eventually I became the vice president, and then I became the president, and now here I am. Um, and in addition to the esports club at the University of Cincinnati, I'm also involved with the League of Legends club, which is a club sport, so that's kind of interesting, and the Super Smash Brothers club.
Got it.
So, yeah.
Let me see. So you do all that, and you're a double major. Now you're just kind of bragging, right?
Yeah, just a little flex. It's a lot of fun. We kind of just tie in together because the esports club is sort of like the umbrella organization for all these other clubs. Um, so it overlaps. It's not like too much. It's nice. It's fun.
You're saying, and obviously, if you love what you do, it's kind of goes on. I'm sure
Hmm.
it's very manageable. But you talked about a couple of things, so I'm going to kind of go backwards in your conversation. Let's start
Yeah.
with one. You mentioned that in high school, I mean, use your terminology. You said you were kind of addicted to the game.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's a big worry, quite frankly, for a lot of
It is. Yes.
kids playing and everything else. And obviously, you're doing great right now, but that might not always be the case for all the kids. So
Hmm.
let me ask you this: if you were at an earlier age, let's say middle school, high school, able to be surrounded by people that were telling you, "Hey, this is the way you go about it, and these are some of your opportunities," how would that have been different for you?
For like esports, just like
Yeah.
here. Yeah. I don't know, because when I was in high school, obviously, like now when I look at it, like my high school has an esports club now. I would have loved to have started that, but I didn't really know how. I think I probably would have taken it a lot more seriously, and I could have shown my mom, like, hey, there's actually some substance to this, hobby of mine that you think is just uh, a waste of time. I mean, she's more supportive of it now because she sees how I have turned it into something a little more productive. I hold events and things like that. But I
Mhm.
really would have appreciated having, resources to show me how to get into the industry. But
Right.
I think like at the time while I was in high school, it was still kind of on the rise, especially for the younger generation.
Yeah, no doubt about it, and it still is. I mean, it's still
Yeah,
expanding and growing, and I think there's still a lot more people that don't know from a parental side about it than parents that are kind of tuned into it. So,
for
um,
sure.
yeah, yeah. Another thing you mentioned is that you're somewhat socially awkward, which is again
Yeah.
that's somewhat a perception of a number of gamers. So for me, I look at it as, not everyone that goes to college, going to school, by the way, hard enough as it is, right? Leaving
It
home,
is, yeah.
but not everyone can just join up and play baseball or basketball or football.
Hmm.
But a lot of people are into video games, whether they're
They
into
are,
it a little bit or into it a ton or anywhere
yeah.
in between. So obviously being able to socially interact with others that like what you like, I think can make a difference. Do you agree?
Yeah, of course, definitely. I have made so many friends because of my interest in video games. I enjoy college a lot more because I've met so many people who are open to admitting that, like, hey, I play video games. It's a lot more accepting there. In
Mhm.
high school, I wasn't really sure because it felt like people were like in their cliques, and there weren't many like openly admitted like gamers like
Sure.
me.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Gotcha. Gotcha. Understood. Well, I think that's a good platform for a number of universities to look at to, again, bring in and include people that are looking for something.
of course.
So talk a little bit about at the University of Cincinnati. How does it work? How does the club work? How many roughly people do you have? How many events do you hold? Do you hold them weekly, per semester? How's it all come together?
Okay, so I'll just talk mainly about like the Esports Club. So we'll have like bi-weekly meetings. We just find that that works a lot better because when we were running weekly meetings, it was interesting. The numbers fluctuated, but they're pretty constant. We get about 30 people per in-person meeting, just depending on like what's going on with people's schedules and if there's an overlap with like another club or anything like that. Um, on our Discord or online community, we have over 1,000 members. Not all of them are UC students. I'd say about like 300 of them are officially like UC students, and there's always going to be more as the freshmen come in. The summer is like a big recruiting time for us. As for like just like lands or events, we usually try to hold like about 2 per semester, and that'll definitely like increase with other clubs if we like collaborate with say the Super Smash Brothers club. They'll hold monthlies every month, and those are just bigger tournaments, which get a lot more people because there's free food and a lot of setups. So who can resist that, you know?
Free food for a college student usually works pretty well. Usually works.
Yes, yeah.
Um, Obviously, once you get together for these tournaments, events, etc.,
Hmm.
things can become pretty competitive, just like any other sport. People want to win. So, talk a little bit about. You talked about some of the games you like, but what are some of your most competitive teams within the club? What games do they play?
Okay, so obviously there is League of Legends. That's one of our big teams. There we have Rocket League, Rainbow Six Siege, CS:GO, Overwatch. We have Hearthstone, and we have Call of Duty, Apex Legends, and we're gonna get a Dota team. We're gonna see how that goes, but we got like a lot of games. I'm just hoping I didn't leave anyone out.
No
But
worries.
those are like the big ones.
Got it. Who's the most competitive? Who usually does the best? Which team?
I'd say Rainbow Six Siege is probably the most competitive. They were actually ranked like top 6 in the nation last semester, so they did a really great job. Yeah.
Awesome. Who's your biggest rival? Do you think currently, if you had a, or who do
Oh,
you?
like schools? Maybe like Miami or Akron.
Hey,
They're really good schools. Yeah.
yeah. Cool. 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 So you have a double major. Do you have any thoughts so far once you graduate, kind of where that will take you career wise, or not yet?
Not yet. The dream would be like game design. I love to do 3D modeling and things like that. But honestly, I feel like based on what I've been doing with the esports club, I just love running events. So maybe like some kind of management thing. It's kind of funny. Like, yeah, I'm studying like for fine arts and things like that, but I might just pursue like an MBA or something after my undergrad.
Uh, I don't
Yeah.
know if you would know this yet because you're in college, but
Yeah.
this in esports and the need for people, for example, you just mentioned event management.
Hmm.
It's high in demand. Did you know
It
that?
is. Um, I kind of knew that. Like, I look on LinkedIn and like I follow like Cloud9 and other esports organizations, and I see like there are like internships for like event management. Of course, there's also like social media, but yeah, that event management or like assistant, that definitely appeals to me because I'm very organized and I love running events. So I feel like I can bring a lot to that.
So we've talked about a number of different things between software design, event management, social media, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So from your perspective, just being in the club sounds like it gives you the opportunity to dabble into a lot of different things
hmm
that gives you some ideas of where can this take me career-wise? Would that be accurate?
Yeah, of course. I would say just like being on the exec board or being like a community head. So community heads are just basically the leads for each game community in the club. I would say just like running events, like you have event planning and management over there. And then we have social media managers, and it's just like we're like a mini esports organization, but for, UC obviously. So it's a good experience, I'd say.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Worst case, I mean, again, you get some hands-on experience, which never ever hurts. So that's great.
hmm Yeah.
Um, Talking about esports, let's go backwards a little bit from
hmm
when you were gaming, maybe in high school to maybe your freshman year at UC.
hmm
And obviously, the space has evolved. What differences have you seen that have come out for the better potentially in the last 3 to 4 years?
Like at UC or just in
In
esports in
general,
general?
esports in general,
Esports in general. Um,
or UC, either or, whatever comes to mind.
or UC, well, for esports in general, I'd say that it's a lot more accepting for younger students, like middle school, high school, to be competing in like esports competitions, because when I was in high school, if you weren't like with Cloud9, TSM, CLG, like an official esports organization, what was the point in competing? But now, as I went into college, I saw that, wow, my high school has an esports club, and they compete in some competitions, and then other high schools are, kind of following through with that. So it was very interesting to see that, because I would have loved the opportunity, but I know, like, it wasn't really, I guess, the time for that. But I have college and, other experiences.
Yeah, no doubt. But like to your point, it's growing so rapidly, especially at the younger age group, that you'll see
Yes.
it permeated pretty much everywhere. I think what was it last year? I think there were 16-year-old that won a Fortnite tournament, $3 million.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he was 15, and I think he like used that to buy his mom a house or something. Like, that was so sweet.
It wasn't my kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't my kid. Go figure, right? But yeah, it certainly is expanding, and more kids are getting involved. So I think building that foundation, especially at an early age, is critical,
Mhm.
because as good as esports can be, I'm going to kind of broach a different topic.
Yeah.
There's some other things that aren't as good. There's some toxicity, obviously the bravado that people have that aren't
Yes.
fun versus not. And for me, I told you off camera before we began here, I love the fact that you're on specifically because obviously, A, you got a great head on your shoulders, but it's a woman that is involved with esports, which I think is fantastic because I'd like to see more and more of that. My
Yeah.
daughter watches these. She's in eighth grade. And frankly, there is no difference, man or woman. It's you can do pretty much whatever you set your mind to. So, but
Of
let's talk
course.
a little bit about what you see in esports from a woman's perspective, in terms of good or bad.
Okay, yeah. Um, obviously I'm gonna get like jokes or something, like, if someone finds out that like there's a girl, they might make condescending comments or just like joke about things, and I kind of just brush that off. Like, I've been friends with a lot of guys, and I've heard it all. It's kind of just like whatever to me at this point. Um, and then there are a lot of people who are like really supportive. I mean, I prefer that I don't be treated differently because of my, gender, but there are a lot of people who are supportive and have like a lot of respect for me, so it's really nice to see that.
Mhm.
I do wish, like, I think it is transitioning to where it's more acceptable. Like, you see a lot of streamers um who are female, like, you have Pokimane, like she's a kind of a big deal, Lily Pichu, a lot of girls streamers. And I would say at UC, like, before, there was just tons of guys. Like, I think I was like one of the only girls, one out of two girls. But slowly there are more girls who are like learning about like the esports club, and they're joining it. So that's really good. And then we'll see like some more at the League of Legends Club or at the Super Smash Bros. Club.
Yeah.
I think Smash is like one of those games where it's like really welcoming for people. So it's not as intimidating as, say, esports, because people sometimes they'll just feel like, what does that mean? I remember I was recruiting it, and someone asked if we had like intramural sports, and I said, no, it's not like that. It's a little different. It's not like a typical sport.
Understood.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I look at it as anybody can game.
Yeah.
Black, white, male, female,
Yes.
handicap, younger, older. You just don't know. And once you pick up the controller, if you're working on a controller, obviously on your PC,
Hmm.
you get after it. It's amazing sometimes who you see who is actually that gamer that's actually really, really good. So it's just a
Yeah.
matter of bringing them in, including everybody, being diverse, and let's see how we go from there.
Yeah.
Um, Last topic or last question for you
Hmm.
is now you've progressed obviously from high school to the college level. And
Hmm.
just based on this conversation, I think you've got an incredibly bright future ahead of you.
Thank you.
What types of opportunities do you see that this can create for that high schooler coming into college, besides obviously just the gaming and the social aspect? But
Yeah.
what types of opportunities do you think, just following this pathway of whether it's a varsity sport for esports or a club for esports at the collegiate level, what are some of the things that they can look forward to?
I'd say something that I don't think people really think about or maybe overlook is that there's a lot of leadership opportunities and team working because you have to communicate. If you're playing as like a player, you're going to be playing with other people that who you may not, know initially, and you all may be good, but it doesn't mean anything if you don't have good synergy or communication with each other. Um, you could have the best players in the world, but if they don't listen to each other and collaborate, you're not gonna win like every game or anything like that. So I'd say that there's a lot of team building, and then I'd say critical thinking. A lot of the games that we have, they encourage, you have to think like on the spot. Like esports, it's like right there. It's not like it's just very active. So you would have to think on the spot, and then that would, you're using your mind, critical thinking, things like that. um, it's really enriching for the most part, as long as you take a break. I know there's some people who would just play for like hours on end, but your brain needs a break at some point.
No doubt about it.
uh,
No doubt.
yeah.
Yeah, doing it the right way is always the best way. And actually, usually, if you do it the right way, you get the proper rest, eat right, things like that, you end up usually performing better. Uh,
Yes.
but to your point, there are a number of companies that we've actually interviewed that talk about how they like some of the games within esports that allow a person to be in a pressure situation pretty consistently.
Yeah.
You have to make that, like you said, those critical decisions right on the spot.
Yes.
In a work environment, that translates usually into a pretty successful employee too. So
Hmm.
that's something that certainly correlates from the esports world onto the business side of things as well,
Definitely. Yes.
no doubt. So, well, we are just about up on time for this Spincast episode, but Mika, I sincerely again appreciate you coming on. I wish you certainly the
Yeah.
best of luck as we move forward.
Thank
Hopefully,
you.
we get back to normal a little bit here. Um,
Yes.
I'll catch back up with you hopefully maybe next semester and kind of see how things are going. Hopefully once things normalized a little bit
Yeah,
and
of course.
catch up and touch base.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's great. Yeah, really appreciate what Spin is doing. I think it's a really great thing, especially for the younger generations and their parents. I think the more knowledge that the more resources that people have, the less stigma there is toward gaming.
Yeah, I think education is everything. Once you have the
Yes.
information, you can make the right decision, good or bad, whatever you decide is fine. But let's get the
Hmm.
right information out there. So I appreciate people like
Yes.
you that are helping us spread that word. So
Yeah, of course.
thank you so much. Thanks for
Yeah,
being
no problem.
plugged in. And we will talk again soon.
Yeah, of course. Have a good night.